The Emperor's genetic engineering project took place in carefully controlled laboratories deep beneath the Himalayan mountains. The facilities contained rows of 20 gene forges, each calibrated to specific genetic markers drawn from the Emperor's own DNA. These gene forges employed unique techniques that went far beyond standard genetic manipulation, incorporating psychic resonance and warp-attuned materials in their construction. Each Primarch's genetic template was designed to emphasize particular aspects of the Emperor's own abilities, with Horus's gene sequence specifically crafted to enhance leadership capabilities and tactical acumen. The security protocols around the Primarch project included multiple layers of psychic wards and physical barriers. Gene rights worked in isolated cells, never seeing the full scope of their work. The Emperor personally oversaw critical stages of development, particularly during the implementation of higher cognitive functions. Horus's gene sequence received special attention. Multiple historical sources indicate the Emperor spent more time fine-tuning his genetic structure than any other Primarchs. The Chaos God's intervention occurred through a carefully orchestrated breach of the facility's psychic defenses. They exploited a moment of vulnerability when the Emperor's attention was diverted by a significant warp disturbance, potentially one they had manufactured. The physical dispersal of the Primarch pods employed warp technology far beyond anything the Imperium has since encountered, suggesting direct intervention by the Chaos Gods rather than mere mortal agents. The genetic markers in each Primarch pod were designed to interact with their eventual landing sites, modifying their development based on environmental factors. Horus's pod landed on Thonia, a planet that had already been colonized during humanity's first expansion into space. The world's culture centered around gang warfare between massive mining clans who controlled access to the planet's dwindling mineral resources. The environment consisted of endless cityscapes built atop countless layers of previous construction, honeycombed with mining tunnels that reached toward the planet's core. Horus's early years on Chthoniya shaped his understanding of power dynamics. He rose through the gang hierarchies by combining tactical insight with an innate ability to inspire loyalty. Unlike some historical accounts suggest, he didn't simply dominate through force. He demonstrated an early talent for building coalitions between rival groups, a skill that would later prove crucial during the Great Crusade. The Emperor's discovery of Horus marked the first recovery of a Primarch. Contemporary accounts describe their first meeting in detail. The Emperor, recognizing the psychic signature of his creation, found Horus leading a confederation of gang armies. Horus immediately recognized the Emperor, suggesting a deep psychic imprint that survived the scattering. This instant connection established a dynamic unlike any other Primarch-Emperor relationship. Their early interactions focused heavily on knowledge transfer. The Emperor personally tutored Horus in subjects ranging from military strategy to human psychology. These sessions often took place in the Emperor's private strategium aboard his flagship. Surviving records indicate they spent considerable time analyzing historical military campaigns, with particular emphasis on void warfare and large-scale ground operations. Horus's combat training combined traditional martial arts with advanced weaponry. He trained extensively with the Custodian Guard, developing a fighting style that emphasized efficiency over spectacle. His weapon handling showed a preference for versatility. While proficient with all forms of combat, he excelled particularly in void warfare and ship-to-ship combat scenarios. The development of Horus's leadership abilities followed a carefully structured program. He accompanied the Emperor on diplomatic missions, learning through observation how to handle different human cultures. These experiences proved crucial during the Great Crusade, influencing his approach to planetary compliance actions. The Emperor's teaching methods emphasized practical experience over theoretical knowledge, allowing Horus to develop his own solutions to complex problems. Military records from this period show Horus's first command experiences with prototype legion formations. He worked directly with gene seed implementation protocols, providing insights that improved space marine creation procedures. His involvement in early legion organization established patterns that would later influence all Astartes' command structures. The bond between Horus and the Emperor strengthened through shared campaigns. They developed complementary combat styles. While the Emperor could overwhelm any opposition through sheer power, Horus specialized in precisely applied force that achieved maximum effect with minimum expenditure. Their military partnerships demonstrated an almost intuitive level of coordination, particularly during void operations. These early years also saw Horus developing his characteristic diplomatic approach. He showed an uncanny ability to read other cultures and adapt his presentation accordingly. This skill proved particularly valuable when dealing with human civilizations that had developed in isolation during the Age of Strife. His methods often achieved compliance through negotiation rather than force, preserving valuable resources and infrastructure for the expanding Imperium. The 16th Legion's formation predated Horus's discovery, drawing its initial recruits from Terra's techno-barbarian tribes. Gene seed implementation protocols showed unusually high compatibility rates, allowing rapid expansion of Legion numbers. These early Luna Wolves displayed aggressive combat tendencies and a predisposition for close-quarters warfare, traits that would later mesh perfectly with Horus's tactical preferences. Upon taking command, Horus immediately restructured the Legion's organization. He broke down the rigid command structures inherited from Unity-era protocols, introducing a more flexible system that emphasized initiative at all levels. Company commanders received unprecedented autonomy, while strict performance metrics ensured this freedom served the Legion's goals. This approach differed markedly from other Legion's more hierarchical systems. The Luna Wolves' early compliance actions on Venuth demonstrated their evolving tactical doctrine. Instead of traditional formation warfare, Horus introduced the spear tip concept, concentrated force applied to enemy command structures. During the Venuth campaign, a single Luna Wolves strike force eliminated 3 planetary defense centers in rapid succession, collapsing military resistance without widespread destruction. Combat records from this period detail the development of void warfare techniques that other legions would later adopt. The Luna Wolves perfected rapid deployment protocols using specialized boarding torpedoes, enabling precision strikes on enemy capital ships. Their void combat doctrine emphasized crippling enemy command and control capabilities over achieving total destruction. Legion culture evolved around the concept of constant competition. companies vied for position in the spear tip, with performance tracked through an elaborate system of battle honors. This internal competition drove innovation. Squad leaders constantly developed new tactical approaches to gain advantages over their peers. The practice of marking kills began during this period, though it hadn't yet evolved into the more formalized ritual it would become. The compliance of 7 Winds marked a crucial development in Legion tactics. Facing a technologically advanced human civilization that utilized atmospheric manipulation as a defense system, the Luna Wolves adapted their usual spear tip approach. Instead of targeting military installations, they struck atmospheric control centers in synchronized attacks from multiple vectors. This demonstration of tactical flexibility became a hallmark of Legion operations. Their relationship with the Ultramarines highlighted contrasting military philosophies. While Guilliman's Legion operated through detailed strategic planning, the Luna Wolves excelled at exploiting battlefield opportunities. Joint operations between the legions, particularly during the Shiro campaign, showcased how these different approaches could complement each other. The Luna Wolves would strike decisive blows, while the Ultramarines secured and consolidated territory. The Blood Angels became close allies during several joint compliances. Horus and Sanguinius developed tactical combinations that maximized both legions' strengths. The Luna Wolves would create breakthrough points that the Blood Angels' assault units could exploit, leading to the development of the hammer and anvil tactics that would prove devastating during the Great Crusade. Combat records from the Melchior Compliance detail the Legion's growing expertise in planetary assault operations. The Luna Wolves developed techniques for simultaneous strikes against multiple strategic targets, coordinating hundreds of drop pods and assault boats with precision timing. This operation highlighted their ability to adapt standardized Imperial Army assault protocols to specific tactical situations. Integration with Imperial Army units showcased another aspect of Legion doctrine. Unlike some legions that operated independently, the Luna Wolves actively incorporated army units into their strategic planning. They developed specific protocols for army units to exploit gaps created by Astartes' strike forces, maximizing the effectiveness of both forces. The Legion's approach to compliance negotiations reflected Horus's diplomatic skills. Initial contact protocols prioritized peaceful resolution while maintaining clear military pressure. This combination proved highly effective. Numerous worlds joined the Imperium after witnessing Luna Wolves' precision strikes against military targets, followed by immediate offers of peaceful integration. The development of specialized units within the Legion accelerated during this period. The Justaran Terminator squads emerged as elite shock troops, while Reaver attack squads perfected rapid strike tactics. These units operated under direct Legion command rather than being attached to specific companies, allowing flexible deployment based on mission requirements. Their rivalry with the Word Bearers stemmed from fundamentally different approaches to compliance. While the 16th Legion focused on cultural and religious conversion, the Luna Wolves prioritized efficient military solutions. This philosophical difference led to tensions during joint operations, though Horus's diplomatic skills prevented serious conflicts. The Luna Wolves' reputation grew through their success in void combat. The Battle of unstoppable rage demonstrated their mastery of ship-to-ship warfare when they destroyed a significant orc fleet through a series of coordinated boarding actions. Rather than engaging in extended ship duels, they developed techniques for rapid capture of enemy vessels, turning the orcs' own ships against them. The Emperor's decision to appoint Horus as Warmaster emerged from practical necessity rather than mere favoritism. The growing complexity of the Great Crusade demanded centralized military command, and Horus had demonstrated superior results in joint legion operations. The official appointment ceremony took place aboard the Vengeful Spirit, with representatives from all 18 legions present. The transfer of command authority included specific provisions for resource allocation and strategic priority setting that fundamentally changed how the Great Crusade operated. Horus's first actions as Warmaster focused on streamlining military operations. He reorganized expeditionary fleets based on operational efficiency rather than traditional legion associations. This restructuring upset some of his brothers, particularly Perturabo and Angron, who saw their legions assigned supporting roles in major campaigns. The new command structure introduced regular strategic councils where fleet commanders could coordinate operations and share intelligence. The compliance of the Gordian League demonstrated Horus's evolved approach to warfare. The League, a confederation of 15 human-settled worlds, possessed significant technological capabilities and sophisticated planetary defenses. Rather than launching simultaneous assaults, Horus employed targeted diplomatic pressure on specific worlds while using Luna Wolves' strike forces to eliminate key military installations. This combination of diplomacy and precision warfare secured the League's submission with minimal infrastructure damage. At Ulanor, Horus faced the largest recorded orc empire of the Great Crusade. The orc war boss, Urlak Urg, had united hundreds of worlds under his control. The campaign required coordinated efforts from multiple legions, with Horus orchestrating a series of feigned retreats and counterattacks that drew orc forces into carefully prepared killing zones. The final battle involved synchronized strikes from the Luna Wolves, White Scars, and Imperial Fists, with supporting actions from 5 Imperial Army battle groups. The triumph at Ulanor marked the high point of the Great Crusade. The ceremony involved over 100,000 troops drawn from every legion and Imperial Army regiment that participated in the campaign. Horus's elevation to Warmaster took place on a specially constructed platform half a kilometer high, built from melted down orc war machines. The Emperor's decision to return to Terra was announced during this ceremony, though private records indicate Horus had been informed of this intention months earlier. Horus's command style as Warmaster emphasized flexibility and initiative. He established new protocols for interlegion cooperation, creating mixed unit task forces for specific missions. This approach proved particularly effective during the compliance of the Caranal cluster, where elements from 3 different legions operated under unified command for the first time. These operations helped develop standardized procedures for joint legion actions. The establishment of the Council of Terra changed the political landscape of the Imperium. Horus's military authority now had to operate alongside civilian administration, leading to friction over resource allocation and compliance priorities. His solution involved creating parallel command structures that could operate independently while maintaining strategic coordination. This system allowed military operations to continue efficiently while satisfying the Council's oversight requirements. The compliance of the Intrix highlighted Horus's diplomatic capabilities. This advanced human civilization had developed unique solutions for dealing with chaos influence, though they used different terminology. Horus's initial approach focused on cultural exchange rather than immediate compliance demands. He authorized unprecedented levels of interaction between Interx representatives and various imperial institutions, seeing potential value in their technological and cultural developments. Military innovation continued under Horus's leadership. He introduced new fleet formations that maximized the effectiveness of different ship classes, moving away from the brute force approaches favored by some Legion fleets. The Battle of Tashir demonstrated these tactics when a numerically inferior Imperial fleet outmaneuvered and destroyed an Orc armada through coordinated strike patterns and synchronized Nova cannon fire. The integration of newly compliant worlds received particular attention under Horus's command. He established specialized liaison teams that combined Imperial Army officers, administratum officials, and Astartes advisors. These teams helped smooth the transition to Imperial rule while identifying potential resources and recruitment opportunities for the ongoing crusade. This system proved particularly effective with technically advanced societies that could quickly begin contributing to the Imperial war effort. Relations with the Mechanicum improved under Horus's leadership. He granted their explorator fleets priority access to newly discovered archaeotech sites in exchange for preferential resource allocation to his strategic initiatives. This arrangement accelerated the pace of technological recovery while ensuring critical military operations received necessary support. The Forges of Mars increased production of specialized equipment for operations under Warmaster authority. The development of new combat doctrines accelerated during this period. Horus authorized the creation of specialized training facilities where different legions could exchange tactical knowledge and develop combined arms strategies. These facilities became centers for military innovation, producing new approaches to void warfare, planetary assault, and siege operations. The techniques developed here would influence Imperial military doctrine for millennia. Personal combat records from this period show Horus's direct involvement in critical operations. During the compliance of Molech, he personally led an assault on a heavily defended planetary capital, demonstrating tactical acumen that validated his position as Warmaster. The operation involved precise coordination between orbital strikes, drop pod assaults, and mechanized ground forces, showcasing the full range of Imperial military capabilities. The Emperor's withdrawal to Terra created immediate practical complications in the command structure of the Great Crusade. Direct communication channels with the Emperor became restricted, forcing all inquiries through layers of bureaucratic intermediaries. Horus's attempts to maintain strategic coordination faced increasing delays as the Council of Terra inserted itself into military decision-making processes. Malkador's role as regent added another layer of complexity, as his authority sometimes overlapped with Horus's military directives. Questions about the Emperor's secret projects on Terra began circulating among the Primarchs. Horus received contradictory information through various channels, with some reports suggesting massive construction projects beneath the Imperial Palace. The reduction in custodian deployments to expeditionary fleets further fueled speculation about activities on Terra. Horus's personal logs from this period show growing concern about being kept uninformed of crucial developments. Erebus's influence manifested gradually through his role as first chaplain of the Word Bearers. His initial approaches to Horus focused on shared frustrations with Council of Terra interference in military matters. During strategic planning sessions, Erebus consistently highlighted cases where civilian oversight had hampered military effectiveness. He provided Horus with intelligence reports suggesting the Council actively worked to diminish Astartes' authority in compliance operations. The administrative burden of the Warmaster position increased significantly after the Emperor's departure. Horus faced mounting demands from both military and civilian authorities, while his ability to resolve conflicts between them diminished without direct imperial authority to draw upon. The situation worsened when several frontier worlds rejected imperial authority, citing the Emperor's absence as evidence of abandoned commitments. Corpheron's influence operated more subtly through diplomatic channels. He arranged meetings between Horus and planetary governors who had experienced difficulties with the Council of Terra, building a narrative of civilian administrators undermining military authority. These encounters often featured evidence of bureaucratic interference in successful compliance operations, reinforcing Horus's growing frustrations. The Serpent Lodge first appeared during standard compliance operations on Davin. Initial reports classified it as a benign local cultural institution, following standard protocols for preserving non-harmful indigenous practices. Erebus personally vouched for the lodge's compatibility with imperial truth, presenting historical documents suggesting similar organizations had successfully integrated into imperial society on other worlds. Reports from Malaghurst, Horus's equerry, detail increasing requests for private meetings between the Warmaster and Lodge representatives. These meetings occurred under the pretext of cultural integration discussions, but security logs show them extending well beyond scheduled durations. Surviving documents indicate discussions ranging from ancient history to philosophical debates about humanity's future. Lodge influence spread through the Luna Wolves command structure, through informal gatherings and private ceremonies. Officers reported increased access to strategic information and improved operational coordination after participating in Lodge activities. The organization's structure mimicked existing military hierarchies, making it appear as a natural extension of command relationships. Davin's first compliance under planetary governor Eugen Temba had proceeded according to standard protocols. The world's strategic location made it valuable for ongoing crusade operations, and initial imperial infrastructure investment reflected this importance. Reports of unrest on Davin's moon received standard priority classification until Temba's forces ceased responding to communications. The decision to return to Davin came after intelligence suggested widespread corruption among the imperial forces stationed there. Horus's personal files indicate concern about potential damage to the Luna Wolves' reputation if their first compliance action failed. Erebus provided additional reports suggesting the situation required the Warmaster's direct intervention to prevent broader regional instability. Combat records from the initial moon landing show unusual tactical decisions by Luna Wolf's forces. Standard containment protocols for suspected contamination were modified under direct orders from the Warmaster's staff. Lodge members among the officer corps encouraged deployment patterns that placed Horus in position to personally confront Temba, contrary to established Legion doctrine regarding Primarch security. The environmental conditions on Davin's moon during the campaign deviated significantly from previous surveys. Atmospheric readings showed unprecedented fluctuations, while chronometers experienced unexplained malfunctions. Survivors described temporal distortions affecting Vox communications and targeting systems. These phenomena intensified in areas where Lodge members conducted their ceremonies. Temba's transformation exceeded known parameters for biological corruption. Combat pict captures show physical changes that defied standard medical understanding, with weapons passing harmlessly through altered flesh. The wound Horus received during the confrontation displayed similar characteristics, resisting all conventional medical treatment attempts. Analysis of weapon fragments proved inconclusive, with samples demonstrating impossible molecular structures. Security logs from the Vengeful Spirit during Horus's convalescence show irregular access patterns to the Primarchs' medical chambers. Lodge members moved freely through restricted areas, while traditional command staff faced increasing restrictions. Medical servitors registered multiple system failures during critical monitoring periods, with data logs showing evidence of external tampering. Medical records from Davin's moon detail the exact nature of Horus's wound. The weapon entered at a 47-degree angle between the third and fourth right thoracic plates, penetrating primary and secondary heart chambers. Standard healing protocols failed as the wound displayed signs of active resistance to treatment. Tissue samples showed molecular destabilization spreading outward from the impact site at measurable rates. The Primarch's enhanced healing actually accelerated the corruption's spread, turning his own biological defenses against him. The Mournival's records note their opposition to the Lodge's proposed healing ritual. Abaddon specifically raised concerns about deviation from Imperial medical protocols, while Loken's personal logs detail multiple attempts to contact Terra for guidance. The decision to proceed came directly from Horus's equerry, Malakhurst, who cited the Warmaster's previous directives about Lodge authority in cultural matters. During his unconscious state, Horus experienced what surviving accounts describe as a series of historically accurate visions. He witnessed the Imperial Palace 10,000 years in the future, a rotting edifice where thousands of daily sacrifices maintained the Emperor's existence. The visions showed the Imperium devolving into a religious state that precisely contradicted everything the Great Crusade fought to build. These images carried perfect tactical details that matched Horus's own strategic knowledge, lending them devastating credibility. The manipulation centered on specific pressure points in Horus's psyche. The visions targeted his concerns about being replaced, showing the Emperor's Thunder Warriors purged after their usefulness ended. They presented evidence of the Emperor's divinity, exactly what the Imperial truth denied, while simultaneously showing him using that divinity to demand worship. The psychological warfare employed against Horus used his own tactical genius against him, presenting scenarios that validated his worst fears using strategically sound evidence. First signs of physical change appeared immediately after recovery. The Warmaster's pupils showed subtle color shifts in certain lighting conditions. His combat speed increased by 3.7% according to training servitor logs, while strength tests registered power fluctuations that exceeded normal Primarch parameters. Medical cogitators noted irregular energy readings from his nervous system, particularly during strategic planning sessions. Horus's command style underwent immediate alterations. He began authorizing more aggressive compliance actions, reducing diplomatic efforts in favor of direct military solutions. Resource allocation shifted toward immediate combat effectiveness rather than long-term stability. The Warmaster's strategic orders showed increased emphasis on rapid results over sustainable victories. Trusted advisors noticed behavioral changes during private meetings. Malaghurst's reports indicate longer periods of silent contemplation between decisions. The Warmaster began dismissing long-serving staff members, replacing them with Lodge-affiliated officers. Communication patterns with other Primarchs shifted. Messages to Lorgar increased, while contact with Malcador decreased significantly. The Mournival's effectiveness diminished as Horus began excluding certain members from critical meetings. Loken and Torgadon found themselves assigned to distant compliance actions, while Abaddon and Aximand received increased access and authority. Combat doctrine updates started incorporating tactical changes that prioritized overwhelming force over precision strikes. Personal logs from Legion officers show increasing concern about changes in battlefield priorities. Civilian casualty rates rose as compliance protocols shifted toward immediate submission rather than long-term integration. The Warmaster's orders began including provisions for maximum destruction of non-compliant infrastructure, marking a significant departure from previous preservation directives. Interaction patterns with the Mechanicum shifted toward demanding immediate results rather than maintaining traditional diplomatic protocols. Horus authorized increasing use of prohibited technologies, citing Warmaster authority to override standard restrictions. Mars received direct orders to accelerate weapons research without standard safety protocols, backed by threats of reduced Legion protection for key Forge worlds. Initial signs of corruption manifested in subtle strategic changes. Compliance targets began focusing on worlds with specific archaeotech signatures or reported psychic phenomena. The Warmaster's fleet movements created patterns that only became apparent when mapped against certain stellar configurations. Resource allocation shifted toward Legion elements that showed increased aggression and reduced adherence to standard Imperial protocols. Ship logs from the Vengeful Spirit detail atmospheric changes on the command deck. Servitors reported temperature fluctuations and inexplicable equipment malfunctions near the Warmaster's personal chambers. Crew members experienced increasing instances of disorientation and unusual dreams, particularly those with direct access to Horus's inner circle. Analysis of command protocols showed systematic dismantling of oversight mechanisms. Horus implemented new communication procedures that reduced transparency while maintaining appearance of normal operations. Strategic reports to Terra underwent multiple revisions before transmission, with original versions showing significantly different information from final submissions. The Warmaster's personal combat style incorporated increasingly brutal elements. Training sessions ended with more serious injuries among sparring partners. Weapon modification requests showed preference for designs that inflicted maximum pain rather than clean kills. Combat servitors registered increasing instances of damage beyond mission parameters during practice sessions. Horus's strategic repositioning of forces began months before open hostilities. He manipulated fleet deployments through a series of seemingly routine strategic adjustments. The World Eaters received orders to suppress rebellions in the Segmentum Tempestus, while the Death Guard concentrated forces near the Barbarous sector. Each movement appeared tactically sound when viewed in isolation, yet created a larger pattern of coordinated positioning. Fleet records show calculated disruption of astropathic communications through systematic elimination of key relay stations. The Warmaster issued orders to investigate communication irregularities, using these missions to isolate loyal elements. Ships carrying suspicious personnel found themselves assigned to distant patrol duties, their absence explained through standard rotation protocols. The identification of loyalist elements within the traitor legions required careful surveillance. Horus established special assessment protocols, ostensibly to evaluate combat readiness. Officers with strong ties to Terra or expressed doubts about new policies found themselves assigned to specific companies. These groups received increasing scrutiny while being fed deliberate misinformation about broader Legion activities. Istvan III's selection as the betrayal site stemmed from its strategic isolation and atmospheric conditions. The planet's location allowed control of local warp routes, while its atmosphere facilitated virus bomb deployment. Preliminary bombardments targeted communication arrays and defense systems, standard procedure for compliance actions that prevented early warning signals. The virus bombing of Istvan III demonstrated precise timing in its execution. Ships maintained specific positions to create overlapping fields of fire while preventing target escape. The virus bombs themselves contained modified life eater strains, engineered for maximum speed rather than thorough tissue destruction. This modification proved crucial when the virus unexpectedly left victims alive long enough to realize their betrayal. Initial reports from the surface detailed unexpected survival rates among the Loyalist forces. The Life Eater virus's accelerated deployment reduced its effectiveness against Astartes' physiology. Loyalist elements, led by Garviel Loken and Saul Tarvitz, managed to reach environmental shelters before atmospheric ignition. Their survival forced Horus to commit ground forces, transforming a planned swift execution into a prolonged engagement. Combat records from the surface war show unprecedented levels of brutality. Brother fought brother in close-quarter battles through ruined cities. Tactical doctrines developed over decades of fighting together turned every engagement into a chess match between equals. Kill rates exceeded anything recorded in Legion history, with both sides employing intimate knowledge of each other's methods. The drop site massacres planning incorporated lessons from Istvan III. Horus positioned seemingly loyal legions in the second wave, using their reputation to allay suspicions. The landing zones were carefully selected to maximize crossfire potential while limiting escape routes. Terrain features channeled retreating forces into predetermined kill zones. Iron Warriors' siege expertise proved crucial in the massacre's execution. Their fortification patterns included deliberate weaknesses, visible only to those who helped construct them. Each firing position and fallback point had been designed to fail at specific moments, transforming shelter into trap. The Traitor Alliance's formation followed careful psychological manipulation. Horus leveraged existing grievances, presenting evidence of the Emperor's supposed betrayal tailored to each Primarch's concerns. Angron received proof of planned Legion purges, while Perturabo saw evidence of deliberate marginalization. Each revelation built upon foundations laid through years of perceived slights. New combat doctrines emphasized psychological warfare alongside physical destruction. Units received orders to desecrate Imperial symbols and display conquered chapter standards. Battlefield communications included broadcasting loyalist death screams on open Vox channels. Every engagement aimed to break morale as much as bodies. Tactical innovations focused on exploiting loyalist predictability. Traitor forces deliberately violated established combat doctrines, knowing their opponents would respond according to training. Standard Imperial tactics became liability as traitors used intimate knowledge of response protocols to create ambushes. Supply chain corruption began long before open conflict. Horus inserted loyal supporters into key Mechanicum facilities, gradually altering production quotients and specifications. War materials delivered to suspected loyal forces included subtle defects, while traitor elements received increasingly potent weaponry. Each disparity created marginal advantages that accumulated into significant combat superiority. The reorganization of Legion command structures eliminated traditional checks and balances. Horus consolidated authority under officers proven loyal to him personally, dismantling long-standing organizational separations. This centralization improved combat coordination while ensuring tactical decisions served overall strategic goals rather than individual Legion interests. Fleet engagements developed new void warfare protocols that emphasized maximum devastation. Ships no longer attempted to disable or capture enemy vessels. Every engagement aimed for complete destruction. Boarding actions focused on sabotage rather than seizure, with boarding teams carrying viral bombs and other weapons previously forbidden by Legion protocols. Medical logs from the Vengeful Spirit documented Horus's physical changes with clinical precision. His height increased by 17%, while muscle density readings exceeded normal Primarch parameters by factors of 3 to 5. The Warmaster's skin developed a gray undertone that darkened under combat conditions. Baseline temperature readings dropped by 3.2 degrees, while energy emissions from his body created interference patterns in sensitive equipment. Genetic sampling showed active mutation at the cellular level. Standard Primarch healing protocols accelerated these changes rather than fighting them. Combat stimulant effectiveness increased beyond projected maximums, suggesting fundamental alterations in his biological processes. Tissue samples displayed unusual regenerative properties, with damaged cells reconstructing themselves in patterns that defied Imperial medical understanding. Psychological evaluations noted increasing disconnect between decision processes and emotional responses. The Warmaster's strategic calculations incorporated factors previously considered excessive, such as acceptable casualty rates among civilian populations. His temporal perception altered, allowing faster combat reactions while extending strategic planning capabilities. Personal logs show growing preoccupation with future possibilities, some extending thousands of years ahead. Tactical briefings underwent structural changes reflecting new thought patterns. Battle plans incorporated impossible variables, yet achieved predicted outcomes with increasing accuracy. The Warmaster's strategic models began accounting for warp currents and psychic resonance in fleet movements. Traditional military logistics expanded to include factors like blood sacrifice, ratios, and symbolic positioning of forces. Horus's relationship with the Chaos powers developed through carefully measured stages. Each god received specific offerings tailored to their aspects: precision kills for Khorne, elaborate schemes for Tzeentch, excess for Slaanesh, and calculated plague vectors for Nurgle. His mastery of their competing interests demonstrated tactical genius applied to demonic politics. Negotiations with warp entities followed strategic patterns similar to his earlier diplomatic efforts, but with stakes measured in souls rather than compliance quotas. The Sons of Horus underwent parallel transformations. Gene seed modifications accelerated under new protocols, introducing controlled mutations that enhanced combat effectiveness. Training regimens incorporated warp-touched elements, producing warriors capable of operating in reality-compromised environments. Unit cohesion shifted from brotherhood to predatory pack dynamics. Legion armor underwent systematic modification to accommodate physical changes. Artificers incorporated forbidden symbols into existing patterns, creating hybrid designs that channeled both technological and warp energy. Equipment tolerance levels increased to handle enhanced strength profiles, while targeting systems adapted to process non-Euclidean tactical data. Combat recordings show fundamental changes in Horus's personal fighting style. His previous efficiency gave way to demonstrations of overwhelming power. Each engagement became a message, with battlefield performance engineered to break enemy morale through display of impossible abilities. Personal duels transformed into exhibitions of dominance, often leaving opponents alive long enough to witness their own defeat. Weapon modifications reflected new combat priorities. The Warmaster's armor incorporated demon-touched materials that responded to his will. His signature weapon, Worldbreaker, developed properties that violated known physics. Strike patterns began incorporating symbolic elements, creating resonance patterns that extended damage beyond physical impact. Leadership dynamics within the Legion shifted towards direct domination. The Mournival's advisory role disappeared as Horus established direct mental links with key commanders. Command protocols began incorporating sorcerous elements alongside traditional Vox communications. Battalion leaders received gifts that enhanced their abilities while binding them more tightly to the Warmaster's will. Psychological warfare techniques expanded beyond conventional methods. The Warmaster's presence began generating fear responses even in Astartes conditioned against such reactions. Strategic broadcasts incorporated subliminal elements that triggered physiological responses in exposed populations. Enemy commanders reported impossible visions during engagements, disrupting command capabilities through supernaturally induced doubt. Tactical precognition developed beyond strategic calculation into direct future manipulation. Battle plans incorporated temporal factors only the Warmaster could perceive. Fleet movements followed patterns that optimized both real space effectiveness and warp resonance. Each victory fed back into this system, increasing both tactical accuracy and reality distortion. The Warmaster's physical presence began affecting reality around him. Environment systems registered atmospheric changes in his vicinity. Non-augmented humans experienced memory distortions after direct interactions. Mechanical systems demonstrated unusual failure patterns when exposed to his unshielded presence for extended periods. Strategic planning sessions incorporated increasingly esoteric elements. Star charts gained additional dimensions under his analysis, revealing connections between seemingly unrelated events. Military objectives expanded to include symbolic targets with no apparent strategic value, yet their capture inevitably revealed unexpected advantages. Traditional battlefield dynamics became subordinate to patterns only the Warmaster could fully perceive. Library records show systematic replacement of Imperial tactical texts with new doctrines. Training protocols began incorporating impossible maneuvers that somehow worked under combat conditions. The Legion's collective combat doctrine evolved beyond physical limitations into a hybrid system that leveraged both material and immaterial advantages. Strategic planning for the Terra campaign began during the final stages of the Beta Garmin conflict. Horus allocated fleet resources based on complex calculations incorporating both material and immaterial factors. War room logs from the Vengeful Spirit show tactical simulations running continuously for months, processing variables ranging from fleet dispositions to warp current patterns. Initial fleet positioning focused on isolating the Sol system. Traitor forces secured key nav points along major warp routes, establishing forward bases to support the coming assault. Each position served multiple strategic purposes, restricting loyalist movement while providing repair and resupply points for traitor vessels. These installations incorporated both physical defenses and reality warping technologies developed through Mechanicum collaboration. The Beta Garmin campaign served as testing ground for new assault protocols. Traitor forces deployed experimental weaponry that combined conventional firepower with warp-based effects. Planetary defense networks fell to hybrid attacks that overwhelmed both material and psychic shields. Each engagement provided data for refining tactics intended for Terra's assault. Fleet organization underwent significant modifications for void warfare near Terra. Ships received additional warp-touched enhancements, while crew complements integrated cultist elements alongside traditional naval personnel. Command structures adapted to handle both conventional void combat and reality-distorting operations. Bridge crews learned to navigate using sensors that detected both physical space and immaterial conditions. The Mars campaign required precise coordination between multiple traitor elements. Dark Mechanicum forces moved through secondary forge complexes, corrupting machinery and suborning servitor networks. Each sabotage action followed patterns designed to maximize both physical damage and symbolic impact. Manufacturing output shifted toward weapons, incorporating forbidden technologies and demonic elements. Supply line establishment became critical as forces approached Terra. Fleet elements secured stable warp corridors through combination of naval action and sorceress intervention. Each supply route incorporated redundancies at both physical and immaterial levels. Logistical planning accounted for ammunition expenditure, equipment maintenance, and the specific needs of transformed troops and machinery. Solar navigation presented unique challenges requiring new tactical approaches. Standard warp travel became increasingly difficult as loyalist forces strengthened Terra's psychic defenses. Navigators developed hybrid techniques incorporating both traditional methods and direct warp manipulation. Each fleet movement required careful timing to exploit gaps in both physical and immaterial defenses. Fleet formations adapted to operating in Terra's gravity well. Ships modified their void shields to handle both weapons fire and increasing warp disturbance. Engineering crews implemented running modifications based on combat data, strengthening critical systems against both conventional damage and reality distortion. Command protocols evolved to handle increasing transmission interference from both electronic warfare and psychic disruption. The Beta Garmin muster point served as final staging area for the Terra assault. Fleet elements gathered in precisely calculated positions, creating patterns that resonated at both physical and immaterial levels. Support vessels established repair facilities and ammunition supplies, while specialized ships maintained reality stability in designated zones. Each gathering point incorporated defensive systems against both conventional attack and loyalist psychic warfare. Technical preparations focused on overcoming Terra's legendary defenses. Engineering teams developed specialized breaching equipment incorporating both physical and warp-based technologies. Assault plans included detailed analysis of shield frequencies, void defense patterns, and psychic barrier resonance. Each defensive layer required specific countermeasures developed through extensive testing and simulation. Force deployment followed patterns optimized for both tactical effectiveness and symbolic impact. Fleet elements moved in formations that created both physical and immaterial pressure on defensive positions. Each attack wave incorporated complementary elements designed to exploit specific vulnerabilities while maintaining overall strategic coherence. Command and control systems adapted to handle increasing complexity as conventional warfare merged with warp-influenced operations. The final approach incorporated lessons learned from previous engagements. Ships moved through carefully plotted courses that minimized exposure to defensive fire while maximizing impact on critical targets. Fleet elements maintained precise spacing to create overlapping fields of fire and defense. Each formation adjusted continuously based on real-time combat data and warp condition readings. Combat effectiveness increased through systematic implementation of forbidden technologies. Ships received modifications that violated standard physical laws, while weapon systems incorporated elements that existed partially outside normal reality. Engineering teams worked continuously to maintain stability in systems operating beyond design parameters. Each enhancement required careful balance between increased combat power and maintainable operation. Communication networks underwent extensive modification to handle combat conditions near Terra. Standard Vox systems received supplements allowing transmission through reality-compromised space. Command and control relied on redundant systems operating on multiple levels of existence. Each message incorporated both conventional data and symbolic elements, ensuring accurate transmission under extreme conditions. The transition from void warfare to planetary siege demanded rapid restructuring of command hierarchies. Horus established a multi-tiered control system from his command center aboard the Vengeful Spirit, with dedicated channels to each Primarch overseeing specific theater operations. Perturabo received primary oversight of siege works and fortification breaching, while Angron's World Eaters spearheaded major assault actions. Mortarion coordinated plague warfare and attrition operations, deploying Death Guard elements to systematically wear down defender stamina. Each command node maintained both conventional and sorceress communication links, allowing real-time strategic adjustment as battle conditions evolved. The deployment of Titan legions required particularly careful management. Dark Mechanicum elements provided technical support for corrupted god machines, while specialized command protocols handled the increasingly unstable machine spirits. Traitor Titans received additional warp-touched modifications, their weapon systems incorporating forbidden technologies that violated physical laws. The psychological impact of these transformed war machines proved as valuable as their military effectiveness, with their mere presence causing morale deterioration among loyal defenders. Horus's tactical decisions reflected both conventional military logic and deeper symbolic significance. Each major assault targeted locations of both strategic and metaphysical importance, weakening both Terra's physical defenses and its underlying reality structure. The positioning of Sons of Horus elements maximized both combat effectiveness and symbolic resonance, with key units placed to exploit specific vulnerabilities in loyalist defensive patterns. Support formations maintained precise spacing to create overlapping fields of both material and immaterial pressure. The presence of demon Primarchs added extra complexity to command arrangements. Fulgrim's Emperor's Children required careful handling, their increasingly esoteric combat practices demanding specialized coordination protocols. Angron's Berserker Rages necessitated precise timing and positioning to maximize effectiveness while minimizing friendly fire incidents. Each transformed Primarch brought unique capabilities that required integration into overall battle plans while accounting for their increasingly alien nature. Personal intervention by the Warmaster carried tremendous strategic weight. His appearances on key battlefields served multiple purposes, boosting traitor morale, demoralizing defenders, and directly influencing critical engagements. Each intervention followed careful calculation of both military necessity and symbolic impact. The Warmaster's presence alone could shift battle momentum, his transformed aspect carrying both physical and psychological force. Ground forces witnessed his altered form, massive in corrupted Terminator plate, the light of the eye burning from his armor, reality distorting around him as warp energies coursed through his enhanced frame. Siege operations incorporated extensively tested breaching techniques. Specialized units deployed hybrid weapons, combining conventional explosives with warp-based effects. Each major assault began with carefully coordinated bombardment patterns, creating resonance effects that weakened both physical walls and underlying reality. Ground teams moved through precisely plotted approach vectors, exploiting gaps created by both material damage and localized reality distortion. The Lion's Gate spaceport assault showcased the evolution of traitor doctrine. Initial bombardment combined Titan weapon fire with sorceress bombardment, while ground forces advanced in formations designed to maximize both physical and psychological impact. Specialized breacher units deployed modified siege equipment incorporating forbidden technologies, while support elements maintained reality stabilization fields, allowing deployment of warp-touched weapons. Each phase of the operation demonstrated the integration of conventional military tactics with warp-influenced warfare. Perturabo's siege works represented the pinnacle of corrupted engineering. Massive siege engines incorporated both physical mechanisms and reality warping technologies, while defensive positions used hybrid shield systems proof against both conventional fire and psychic attack. Each emplacement served multiple strategic purposes, providing fire support while channeling warp energies into precise patterns. The Iron Warriors maintained constant modification of their works, adapting to both defender countermeasures and changing warp conditions. Supply operations required continuous adjustment as siege conditions intensified. Specialized units handled the increasingly unstable ammunition types, while technical teams struggled to maintain equipment subjected to reality warping stresses. Each supply line incorporated redundancies at multiple levels, ensuring resource flow despite both physical interdiction attempts and growing warp disturbance. Logistical planning accounted for both conventional needs and the specific requirements of transformed troops and machinery. The integration of cultist elements added another layer of complexity. These forces required specialized handling, their reality warping capabilities demanding careful coordination with conventional military units. Each cult group brought unique capabilities that required specific command and control arrangements. Their deployment followed patterns designed to maximize both military effectiveness and symbolic impact, with positioning carefully calculated to create specific resonance effects. Artillery operations evolved beyond conventional bombardment patterns. Specialized batteries deployed shells, incorporating both high explosives and reality warping payloads, while targeting systems accounted for both physical angles and warp current patterns. Each fire mission combined material and immaterial effects, creating devastating combinations that overwhelmed both void shields and psychic barriers. Fire control centers maintained constant adjustment of targeting solutions as both physical conditions and warp states shifted. Close combat operations saw significant tactical evolution. Assault units received specialized equipment combining traditional weapons with warp-touched enhancements, while command protocols adapted to handle troops operating partially outside normal reality. Each attack wave incorporated elements designed to exploit specific vulnerabilities while maintaining overall strategic coherence. Unit leaders learned to coordinate forces moving through both physical space and reality-compromised zones. The deployment of specialized armor units showcased the extent of technological corruption. Tanks and other heavy vehicles received modifications that violated basic physical laws, while weapon systems incorporated elements that existed partially in the warp. Each vehicle squadron maintained precise formation spacing to create overlapping fields of both conventional fire and reality distortion. Crew training expanded to handle both traditional vehicle operation and the management of warp-touched systems. The breach of Terra's void shields marked the siege's culminating phase. Combined fire from multiple Titan legions created resonance patterns that stressed shield generators beyond design limits. Dark Mechanicum technical teams had identified specific frequencies that, when hit with sufficient concentrated fire, could cause cascade failures in the ancient defense systems. The void shield collapse rippled across the Imperial Palace in waves of crackling energy, its disruption visible from orbit as sheets of electromagnetic discharge illuminated the atmosphere. Horus's final assault commenced immediately upon shield failure. Sons of Horus elite units led the spearhead, their corrupted Terminator armor incorporating modifications that pushed the limits of both material science and warp manipulation. Each squad moved with precision born from months of siege warfare, exploiting breaches with ruthless efficiency. Supporting elements maintained precise spacing to maximize both physical firepower and reality warping effects. The palace's inner sanctum became their primary objective, with all other engagements relegated to secondary priority. The vengeful spirit's teleportarium activated moments after confirmation of shield breach. Specialized tech priests had modified the system far beyond its original specifications, incorporating forbidden technologies that allowed accurate transportation through reality-compromised space. The process itself exhibited signs of corruption. Crackling fields of dark energy surrounded each transmission, while reality distorted visibly around materialization points. Each teleport signature carried traces of warp interference, creating distinct patterns detectable by both conventional sensors and psychic observation. Sanguinius awaited in the vengeful spirit's strategium, his presence a direct challenge to Horus's authority. The Blood Angels, Primarch, stood resolute, his wings spread wide, the blade in carmine ready in his hands. His armor bore marks from previous battles, but his bearing remained undiminished. The confrontation began without words. Both Primarchs understood the inevitable nature of their clash. Their combat incorporated both physical prowess and metaphysical force, each blow carrying the weight of divergent destinies. The duel's violence transcended conventional combat. Reality itself buckled under the force of their exchange, with each impact creating ripples in both material space and the underlying warp. Sanguinius fought with the fury of the righteous, his attacks aimed at both Horus's corrupted form and the chaos energies sustaining him. The Warmaster's responses demonstrated his transformation's extent. His movements violated physical laws, while his strikes carried force beyond mere kinetic impact. The Blood Angels, Primarch's death came despite his legendary skill. Horus's enhanced form proved too powerful, his corruption granted abilities overwhelming even Sanguinius's superhuman capabilities. The killing blow combined physical force with reality warping effects, simultaneously breaking the angel's body and sundering his immortal essence. His fall created psychic shockwaves felt by Blood Angels throughout the system, triggering the first manifestation of what would become known as the Black Rage. The Emperor's arrival shifted the Strategium's entire reality structure. His presence alone forced a degree of stability onto the chaos-warped chamber, while golden light pushed back the warp energies saturating the space. The Master of Mankind appeared both as a physical entity and as a focal point of immense psychic force, his power manifesting simultaneously on multiple levels of existence. His armor incorporated technologies from the dark age of mankind, while his sword burned with energies that denied chaos itself. The final confrontation began with an exchange of both physical and psychic force. Each movement carried layers of meaning beyond mere combat, while reality itself responded to their clash. The Emperor fought with techniques developed during the Age of Strife, combining material combat with masterful psychic warfare. Horus countered with abilities granted by 4 chaos gods, his every action enhanced by warp energies that threatened to unmake reality itself. Their battle transcended conventional understanding of combat. Physical blows carried force capable of sundering battleships, while psychic exchanges created ripples in the warp visible from light years away. The Strategium's structure barely contained their conflict, its walls straining under forces that threatened to breach multiple dimensions. Each moment of their clash rewrote local physics, while space-time itself buckled under the weight of their confrontation. Horus's enhanced form demonstrated the full extent of chaos corruption. His armor had fused with his transformed flesh, while warp energies coursed visible through his form. Each movement left reality warp trails in the air, while his very presence caused technological systems to malfunction. The light of the eye burned from his form with increased intensity, its radiance carrying messages of madness to all who witnessed it. The Emperor's final attack came at terrible cost. His psychic assault burned through Horus's chaos-granted protections, while golden fire scoured away the corruption sustaining the Warmaster's enhanced form. The energy release created effects visible in both real space and the warp, while the backlash damaged both participants beyond conventional healing. Their final exchange lasted microseconds, but contained enough force to permanently mark the fabric of reality. Horus's death unleashed energies previously contained within his corrupted form. Chaos power sought new vectors of expression, while reality itself attempted to stabilize in the aftermath. His armor, once a masterwork of technology, had become a fusion of material and immaterial elements that continued to affect its surroundings even after his fall. The termination of his existence created ripples that influenced both immediate events and long-term future developments. The Warmaster's corpse exhibited signs of both physical and metaphysical damage. His armor had partially melted under the Emperor's final attack, while his flesh showed effects of both chaos corruption and its forceful removal. Tech priests who later examined the remains reported impossible readings from their instruments, while psychers detected lingering traces of both chaos influence and the Emperor's power. The body itself had to be contained using specialized stasis technology incorporating anti-warp measures. The Emperor's grievous wounds would confine him to the Golden Throne, while the traitor legions retreated into the Eye of Terror, fragmenting into warbands that would plague the Imperium for millennia to come. The sons of Horus, shattered by their Primarch's death and the loss of his guidance, would eventually become the Black Legion under Abaddon the despoiler. The cost of victory proved staggering. The Emperor's dream of human enlightenment lay in ruins, replaced by the grim reality of the Imperium that would endure in his absence. Horus's tale serves as the galaxy's greatest reminder of both the heights to which humanity can rise and the depths to which it can fall.